Off Lingshui, China is lowering AI servers into the South China Sea so the ocean can replace power-hungry air conditioners. But whether that steel capsule can survive long enough to change the economics of computing is the question that matters. Before we go deeper, subscribe and turn on notifications if you want the next China tech shift to reach you early, while everyone else is still trying to understand the headline. A marine crane hangs over the water off Lingshui, Hainan. Its cable pulls tight. Beneath it, a sealed steel capsule slips through the bright surface and starts sinking into the South China Sea. Inside that shell, computers keep working. Electric current races through processors built to handle artificial intelligence, and every calculation produces heat. Relentless heat. Yet there is no rooftop chiller waiting offshore, no air-conditioned hall. The engineers are placing the source of that heat inside the thing they want to use to remove it, the ocean. That is the part worth watching closely. A normal data center contains long rows of server racks breathing hot air into narrow aisles. Large fans push that air toward mechanical chillers. Those machines work like an enormous household refrigerator, pulling heat from one place and dumping it somewhere else. But the chillers need electricity, pumps, pipes, and often large amounts of water. If you have ever felt the hot air pouring from the back of a computer, picture that heat multiplied across an entire building. Artificial intelligence makes this problem harder because its machines pack more computing work into the same physical space. More work means more heat. Meanwhile, electrical grids from Virginia to Singapore are being asked to feed rapidly expanding data center loads. Every unit of power spent removing heat is power that cannot run another processor. China's practical question is simple. Can coastal computing grow near major cities without forcing the same coast to support an equally large forest of chillers, cooling towers, and water pipes? And there is a harder question behind that one. How do you tell whether a steel capsule off Hainan is just an interesting trial or an early signal of a much wider industrial move? Most people notice these shifts only after new power lines, factories, ports, and supply chains have already started changing the market. That is exactly why I recommend the China Signal. It gives you a practical framework for connecting China's infrastructure, energy, manufacturing, technology, and trade moves so you can spot the pattern before the market fully reacts. If you want to understand where projects like underwater data centers fit into the bigger strategy, scan the code on screen or use the link in the description. To judge whether China is early or merely repeating an old experiment, you need to know who put servers beneath the sea first. Microsoft had already tested this path with Project Natick. Near Scotland's Orkney Islands, the company operated an experimental server capsule on the seabed. It remained there through cold currents, rough weather, and month after month of real computing work. Microsoft recovered it in 2020 after 2 years underwater. The experiment showed something important. Computers could operate inside a sealed subsea vessel for a long stretch without an engineer standing beside them. The ocean could provide a stable, naturally cool environment. Technically, the idea worked. But Microsoft did not turn Project Natick into a commercial fleet. The capsule came back to shore, the research program ended, and 3 walls remained between a successful experiment and infrastructure that customers could depend on. Seawater corrodes metal. Pressure probes every weak seal, searching for a path through a joint, a cable opening, or a tiny flaw in the shell. And when a drive, power unit, or cooling part fails, an engineer cannot simply walk down an aisle, open a cabinet, and replace it. Now ask yourself, would you seal thousands of computers inside a box that no engineer can enter? That sounds reckless until you understand one crucial detail. The servers are not sitting in seawater. They remain dry inside a pressure vessel, a heavy shell built to hold the ocean outside while the electronics run in a controlled space within it. Think of a submarine without people or windows, packed instead with server racks, cables, cooling hardware, and sensors watching for the first sign of a leak. But the same ocean that offers free access to cold water also attacks the vessel every hour. Salt bites into exposed metal. Waves and currents pull at cables. Water pressure leans against every seal without taking a break. A tiny weakness may stay invisible until recovery requires a ship, a crane, and days of offshore work. Any electricity saved on cooling means very little if the capsule fails early or must be hauled up again and again. That leaves the durability loop wide open. What keeps this shell alive long enough for the savings to become real? Microsoft proved that servers could run underwater, but China's commercial gamble depended on crossing the three walls Project Natick left behind: corrosion, pressure, and a broken machine no engineer could reach. Crossing those three walls meant designing every system around a simple rule: seawater must never touch the computers. Inside the steel capsule beneath the South China Sea, the server racks sit in a dry chamber. As their processors work, they release heat into a closed internal cooling loop. Think of that loop as a set of pipes carrying coolant past the hot machines. The liquid warms, flows away from the racks, and takes the unwanted heat with it. That warm coolant then reaches a metal heat exchanger. A heat exchanger is simply a meeting place for two different environments that must trade heat without mixing. On one side is the sealed internal loop. On the other is the cold ocean outside the pressure vessel. Heat moves across the metal between them, passes through the capsule boundary, and enters the surrounding seawater. Currents then carry it away from the module. Try to picture a warm bottle in a cold bath. The water never touches what is inside, but it keeps pulling heat through the wall. The bottle stays sealed. Its contents cool anyway. That is the basic physical journey here, from processor to coolant, from coolant to exchanger, from exchanger to steel, and from steel into the sea. No magic. Just heat moving toward the colder place available to it. The difference is what does not need to happen next. A normal data center uses compressor-driven chillers, machines that squeeze and move a cooling fluid much like the refrigerator in your kitchen. Those compressors can demand a serious amount of electricity. Around the capsule, seawater keeps accepting heat continuously, so the system can reduce that mechanical cooling burden. But the word reduce matters. Pumps still move fluid. Networking gear still runs. Equipment below the surface and facilities on shore still need power. The ocean is a heat sink, not a free electricity machine. China moved this idea from a test into a commercial setting off Lingshui on the coast of Hainan. Beijing Highlander Digital Technology deployed an initial demonstration module in 2021. That gave engineers a real capsule, real seawater, and real operating conditions to work against. A commercial module in 2023 followed, linked to coastal infrastructure rather than sitting offshore as an isolated laboratory object. That sequence matters because saltwater does not care how convincing a design looks on paper. The shell itself is built heavy enough to resist pressure. As the capsule descends, the weight of the water presses against every seam, so the thick pressure-resistant structure works like armor around a sealed container. Protective coatings cover exposed metal and separate it from salty water. Corrosion control systems add another defense against the slow chemical attack that can eat into steel. Leak monitors watch for moisture where none should exist. Each layer has one practical job: Keep the ocean outside for long enough that the computers inside remain useful. That deals with corrosion, pressure, and early warning. It does not put an engineer beside a failed power unit. So what happens when one sealed component fails and the nearest repair aisle is above the waves? Operators do not open the vessel underwater, and nobody swims down with a toolbox. For major service, a ship positions itself over the site. And the first place that larger system could make sense is along China's crowded coast. Near cities such as Lingshui, land is valuable, people need fast digital services, and new data centers must compete with homes and factories for space. Sealed offshore modules could carry AI inference, cloud services, and other dense computing loads close to those users. AI inference simply means running a trained model when you ask it a question, generate an image, or translate a sentence. Put that work offshore, and operators need less land for sprawling server halls and cooling towers. They can also avoid the fresh water consumed by evaporative cooling, where water pulls away heat as it turns into vapor. That matters because a coastal electricity network might have enough capacity to run thousands of chips, yet struggle once giant compressor-driven chillers join the load. Those chillers work like rows of industrial refrigerators. They squeeze and circulate a cooling fluid, push heat outside, and draw power every second the servers are working. Remove much of that demand, and a Chinese telecom or cloud company could add computing capacity without first building the same huge cooling plant onshore. The grid still feeds the computers, pumps, cable equipment, and landing station. But more of each available unit of electricity reaches the chips doing useful work. That changes the business calculation. Cooling overhead sits quietly inside the price of every cloud service, chatbot response, and generated image. If an operator spends less power removing heat, it can buy more computing from the same electrical supply. It can also choose coastal sites that would be difficult for a conventional campus, then expand faster than a rival waiting for new substations, cooling towers, or water permits. That reaches your own AI tools, because every unit of electricity spent moving heat is electricity that cannot run another chip. The engineering inside a steel cylinder can eventually show up in the speed, availability, and cost of a service in your pocket. But this is where the scale question gets rough. Subsea power cables and fiber lines are expensive to manufacture, lay, protect, and inspect. A cable reel must be loaded onto a marine vessel, carried offshore, and lowered along a planned route without being damaged. Then the weather gets a vote. A typhoon can delay installation, block maintenance crews, and hammer offshore equipment with heavy waves. If a major component fails, an engineer cannot walk over with a replacement board. A suitable vessel must be booked. A crane must reach the site. The sea must be calm enough to lift the entire module safely. One repair can become a marine operation. There is an environmental question too. Each capsule releases heat into the water around it. Currents can carry that heat away, just as fresh water keeps moving past a warm bottle in a cold bath. Yet a large field of standardized modules could create localized warming that must be measured rather than waved aside. The answer depends on water flow, spacing, total heat output, and the species living nearby. Publicly available evidence does not yet settle what a much larger deployment would do over many years. That uncertainty belongs in the cost column beside corrosion control, leak monitoring, ship time, and cable replacement. Would this work in every city and for every server? No. And that limit is exactly what keeps the conclusion honest. Offshore computing will not replace inland campuses everywhere. An inland site may offer cheap land, easy road access, simple repairs, and abundant power without a single marine cable. The offshore case becomes strongest where coastal demand is high, land is scarce, fresh water is under pressure, and the local grid cannot comfortably carry the added burden of compressor-heavy cooling. In those places, paying for a pressure vessel and a recovery ship may be cheaper than forcing another giant cooling plant into the city. And that brings us to the exact claim China has now proved. Surrounding seawater can perform the heat removal job normally assigned to industrial air conditioners, while dry, sealed computers continue commercial work inside a submerged module. Heat moves through an internal loop, crosses a heat exchanger and the capsule wall, then disperses into the South China Sea. The sea does not make computing energy free. Pumps still move fluid. Networking equipment still runs. Shore facilities still draw electricity. But the water outside can make compressor heavy, cooling a smaller part of the total load. The master question was whether commercial computing could operate underwater without the conventional air conditioning burden. The demonstrated answer is yes, within those limits. That is a different achievement from proving a global business model, and the distinction matters. Microsoft explored the same physical idea with Project Natick, then ended the experiment rather than turning it into a broad commercial platform. Now China is testing whether deployment can move beyond research hardware. If reliability improves and costs fall across repeated installations, cooling becomes a smaller constraint on AI growth. That creates a new infrastructure front for Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Chinese telecom companies, Chinese cloud operators, and coastal Asian markets where population, data demand, and limited space meet at the shoreline. The decisive proof will be repeatability. Imagine multiple standardized capsules arranged on the seabed, each connected to a coastal landing station, and each operating long enough to produce records that outside auditors can examine. The electricity savings must exceed the full cost of marine installation, protective coatings, monitoring, cable work, scheduled recovery, and unexpected repairs. Failure rates must be published clearly enough for customers and insurers to price the risk. Service intervals must become predictable. Until that happens, Ling Shui is evidence that the mechanism works, not evidence that every coastal operator should copy it. Still, the industry question has changed. Engineers no longer need to ask whether seawater can carry heat away from sealed commercial servers. They need to ask whether ships and cranes can lift entire modules rarely enough, cheaply enough, and safely enough for the economics to hold. That is a harder test than a successful deployment because it takes years of ordinary operation to answer. No dramatic launch can substitute for thousands of quiet days beneath waves, with dry electronics inside and saltwater pressing against every seal. One steel capsule disappearing below the South China Sea may remain a useful niche for places with unusual land, water, and grid limits. Or it may be the first visible point on a technology curve that stays flat until ocean cooled. Computing becomes routine infrastructure. The capsule is already beneath the water. The next curve will be drawn by maintenance logs, electricity bills, and how often a crane has to return. Would you trust your data to a server module on the seabed, or are the maintenance risks too high? Drop your answer below.